Pizza time. Welcome back to another brand new episode of Skywalking through the League. I am your host, Bill Sheehy, and I'm joined as always by my Jedi partner in crime, Trey Mitchell, who has a special guest today. Trey, how are you doing today, bud?
Bum, bum, bum.
Look who it is. Now,
Yeah, it's this random girl I found at the apartment complex where asked her if she wanted to be on the podcast, and it hit it off.
Nice. Awesome. Now, Jess, why don't you go
Podcasts
ahead
bring
and...
people together.
Yeah, they do. Now, we're very, very excited to have you. Happy that you're here. Jess, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit? Tell the people who you are.
I'm Jessica. I'm Trey's girlfriend, and I have endured all the Spider-Man stuff beforehand, and I've seen it now 3 times, so I think I'm slightly qualified.
Spider-Man was a big. I mean, I haven't been this excited for something in a long time, since The Force Awakens. So she got me right as I was getting really excited for Spider-Man, and it would be
she had the privilege of getting you.
Spider-Man was almost like a problem. It was I was on Reddit so much looking at Spider-Man. It's what are you doing? Kind of thing. So now that it's out in theaters, I'm actually paying attention to her, which is great. So thank God for that. But yeah, so
absolutely. Well, happy to have you on, Jess. Haven't seen you since I was very, very drunk at Trey's pool in Florida a couple months ago. But it's good to see you. And we have a bunch of other guests today too, as well. First, I want to bring on our good friend. He was on the show last week, I think. Connor Giacchetti. Connor, are you there, buddy? Look, there he is. The Italian intensifies. Look,
it is pizza time. So.
It is pizza time. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm pretty good. I just saw this movie for the 3rd time last night, so it's pretty fresh in my mind.
Yeah, love it. We'll get to that here in a little bit, and let's welcome our last guest, Alden Diaz. Alden, are you there, buddy? Where is he? Are you live? There he is. Look at him.
Physically, I am here. Okay. Mentally, I am many places.
Aren't we all?
I want to say real quick, a special shout out to John Watts and Jess's parents for making the 2 most important things in Trey's life.
Yeah, man.
Incredible that they're on that. They're so close. You know, Spider-Man.
It's the same thing.
It's a real toss-up sometimes.
I'm sure that's what she loves to hear as she's sitting next to you.
Yeah, she's thrilled about all this. Yeah,
close enough.
It's great.
Awesome. Well, today's episode is going to be a little bit different, as you guys can probably tell from the title and everything we've talked about. We usually do Star Wars stuff because that's what the podcast is about. But from time to time, we like to do something different. And today's episode is a little bit different. We have been talking about Spider-Man No Way Home in some capacity. Whether mentioning it, doing a whole episode on when Trey...
Whether flying to Los Angeles and seeing Holland on 2 days' notice.
Absolutely. So today's episode is going to be a review of Spider-Man No Way Home. We've seen it a couple of times now. Trey wanted to do this a couple of weeks ago, and I love the idea. I've seen it twice now. I have been really, really excited to talk about it.
You saw it late too.
I did.
I don't know how you did that.
And dude, I was so tempted to go see it. We'll explain that a little bit later, but I just wanted to, set the scene. We're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm really gonna pass it off to you now because this has been your baby basically since it was announced.
Peter 3.
I've seen your enthusiasm for it. I've seen how much this movie means to you. So take it away and let's start our discussion about Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, when talking about this movie, we got to talk about our theater experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So Alden, I'll ask you first. How was your opening night? What was it like?
Well, I'll tell you this. I have in my older age, not that old, I've decided that I love going to the movies alone, which it's alone or with a crowd of like-minded, really excited people. I can't have any middle of the road. I can't have someone that's like, I'll check this out, because I've been down that road. I had a buddy who brought his partner to see Endgame, and she hadn't seen all of them. She was asking a lot of questions. I can't have that because I need it to be the right energy. I'm such an energy-based moviegoer. So got my preferred seat, middle row, middle seat, middle on both axes. And I had honestly a great crowd. It wasn't my first movie in the pandemic era, so I'd been back to the theater. But it was the first one that felt like appropriately like, oh, we're home now. Like this is it. Like this for a brief 2.5 hours, roughly. This is it's like the old world where we could be excited about these and not worry about dying, but also this new world where we are seeing this really unprecedented moment for franchise cinema in terms of like crossing over. My crowd, to use a wrestling term, popped at all the right moments. Everything from The Good Lawyer all the way through to the end, people were on. The crowd got it. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So yeah, it was dazzling. I left the theater and immediately voice messaged a friend of all of ours, Charlie Ashby, from the urinal. Like, Charlie, that's Charlie. I feel so happy. That was so heartwarming.
And you could hear the stream of pee going in the background too.
I said, "Is it tears?
I'm
Is it
so
pee?
happy, Charlie.
It doesn't matter." So yeah,
Well,
I love
that
it.
is amazing.
I love it.
I don't know how Connor can beat that, but Connor, you wanna try, buddy?
Sure. I actually didn't see it open in night. I did get spoiled on 3 things:
Yeah.
Aunt May's death,
Oh,
Garfield showing up, and something else. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I knew those going in. I didn't know the context, thankfully. But I knew they were going to have... Okay, no, the Aunt May thing I figured was fake because it just sounded fake from like the scene description. I'm like, oh, this is fake. This is just a Reddit 4chan thing. It's completely fake. It's not going to happen.
right.
And then it happened. I was like, oh shit, it was real. But I ended up seeing it for the first time, I think a week after it came out, actually. We got tickets like a few days before, went with my family. We all sat in the back row. That's where I usually like to see movies because like I can see it the most. And the crowd was, I was surprised. The crowd was pretty not as loud as you'd expect for a Spider-Man movie. I will say my second viewing, there were people that showed up that I'm pretty sure were just hype men because they freaking flipped
it was me.
at
It's just Trey.
Yeah, it was just Trey. They
Trey
flipped
running
at
around the theater. So he seemed like
Garfield
one
and
guy.
Toby showing up and then just left. And it's like, really? You're going to miss some of the best scenes in the entire movie?
They just
and
they
the
wanted
entire
that part,
Spidey
and that
camp.
was
Yeah.
it.
But
It
my
was
first
actually
viewing,
Toby and Andrew.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
the ones who showed up, and you don't realize that, and they just wanted to see their own introduction.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I wish that was the case. No, it was pretty good. I remember when the movie ended and it goes to the directed by John Watts. I was like, okay, yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty solid. But then like it was No Way Home is one of the movies where like the more I think about it, the more I was like, yeah, this was the goods. This was the real goods right there. So then I saw it a second time, and like the first time, we'll get into this later in the show, but like the first time I was like, on the ending. But then the second time I was like, you know what? I'm going to rewatch the Toby movies and watch the Andrew movies. And I binged on them like right before my second viewing. And I got to tell you, it really, really helped. So it was good. Yeah.
The thing that with MCU movies, since, 2017, 2018, I've gone and seen every MCU movie with my sister. That's our thing. Unfortunately, my sister took a job in Eastern Kentucky at a theater, like as a
how
center
selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Jobs.
How dare she do what's best for her career? So she was going to be in taking this job and wouldn't be back in Lexington until Sunday or Monday. So I had to wait what felt like 10 weeks to go see Spider-Man No Way Home. And, I was a little. Alden talked about it a little bit earlier. Some of my favorite movie going experiences are when you have a crowd of like-minded people and they lose their minds at, you know, particular points in the movie. For Endgame, it's you know, Cap takes Thor's hammer and all of that stuff. It's just basically the last third of Endgame. But what really was interesting to me is that I went to see it on Monday night at around I don't know, whatever time I saw it, and like it was pretty full. Like I was really surprised at how full it was for a Monday night, a couple days after the movie had come out, and you know, it was full, but I feel like the only people that were getting very into it were my sister and myself, and then these people that were sitting like a couple rows behind us, because like it got to the point where I felt like I was being kind of annoying at the big reveals. Like I did know some things going in, because like you couldn't be on Twitter, hell, you couldn't be on TikTok or
You couldn't
YouTube
follow
without
John Campia.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
dude, you could not see, like every time like I would scroll through TikTok, there would be like I would see different Spider-Man coming through.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised on the whole. I really enjoyed it the first time, but I feel like it was a little overwhelming at first, kind of in the way that we've talked. Connor talked about how it was a little like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this ending, and then you sit on it, you think about it. You know, we're a Star Wars podcast, so I'm always going to compare things that we talk that aren't Star Wars and compare it to Star Wars. It felt like the kind of like the way that I felt after seeing The Last Jedi for the first time. It's so overwhelming. There are so many things that are happening. For me, like it felt like I couldn't fully enjoy it because there were scenes that were happening, and I was so worried that like they were going to kill Doc Ock or they were going to kill Tobey Maguire. Like the scene like at the end where like they stab him, I'm like, and they like it looks like he's gonna die. I screamed, "Oh shit!" Like I was the one person in the crowd that was like, "Oh shit!" It just felt like I couldn't really enjoy it the first time, and I did the first time I walked out. I felt a little disappointed, honestly. But like Connor said, it's one of those movies that I sat with it. I thought about it for a long time. My sister and I talked about it on the way back, and like a couple days later, she just texted me and just in all caps and like a crying emoji, "I miss my boys." And like I was just, yeah, absolutely. I miss my boys. I miss my
sister
boys.
Text me that, I would have zero understanding of what that text meant.
No, I mean like it's just Annie and I are just on a different level of just like, yep, exactly 100%. It needs to. So I really did. I enjoyed my theater experience, but after seeing it the second time, I think that it's solidified that for me that I think it's a great movie, and like I think there's a lot to like about this movie. Now, what about you guys?
Awesome. Jess, how was your opening night?
It was good. So we're in Florida, and I was in Nashville, Tennessee at opening night. So that's where I saw it. I took an Uber there, and Ubered back, and it was good. It was weird. It was like 4 p.m. And it was weird that the theater like wasn't really reacting. I was like, it's 4 p.m. opening day or night or whatever. Why is like no one, like when Andrew like walked in, I went like, woo, and like no one else like made any noise. So because like I'm not one to normally like cheer during the movie or whatnot, but that was strange. And then, well, the whole time I was watching it, I was just like, oh, Trey's gonna love this. So I was like waiting for his reaction.
Did you see it first, Jess, or had he already seen it?
No, she saw it at 4. I saw it at like 7.
Oh,
wow.
Like this person.
So when I got out, you were still watching it.
Yeah.
So that was. Yeah. And then, but weirdly, the most reactive crowd was when we saw it together recently. And I'm like, these people it's like their first time watching it.
We saw it on Friday. That was round 5 for me. And that was fun. But I guess my theater experience, my biggest takeaway was right after it was over, I sat next to this dude on the left because it was a sold out theater. And this guy goes, "Man, I liked it, but I didn't really understand it. I should really watch the other Spider-Man movies before I saw this one. And I was like, there's no way that a person who has never seen a Spider-Man movie got tickets to see No Way Home opening night. Like, what reality is this? And that was crazy. But I guess besides that guy, who I'm kind of pissed that he saw it opening night, because like he didn't deserve it like that. He took a seat away from someone who possibly could have had a great experience watching all the freaking movies. What a jackass.
The level of passion coming through. But I have to say, for your audio listeners that maybe aren't seeing, like, that don't get to see Trey's like bodily movements and stuff, every time that Bill or Connor indicated like unsureness, Trey would shake his head no. He would be like,
Bill goes, I didn't know if I liked it opening night. I'm like, this is not worthy. He's not
fucking
worthy.
plebe.
it's like a bodily response. Like, you can't even help it. You're like, unacceptable. Like, you're like an evangelical for this movie. Like,
yeah, it's kind of my child. But yeah, besides that jackass dude, it was fun. We saw it again, and there's like this air conditioning thing in the theater that's like super loud, and it was pretty annoying.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I sat right underneath it, so that was like pretty frustrating. But besides that, it was like my guy Charlie Cox.
Mm-hmm.
Really good lawyer. He shows up and I lose my shit. Andrew Garfield showing up, I still can't believe like is an actual thing that happened.
No, me neither.
The reality that we're in, like, dude, I mean, he's freaking awesome. But Andrew's been like, I've been very prominently a big Andrew Garfield fan on Twitter and stuff. So seeing him was awesome. And it was just like, it was just surreal. It took me probably a week and a half to 2 weeks to be able to talk about it as if it was like just a movie and not this insane experience that I have been following ever since Civil War, really. I mean, that's what led to this. It was seeing him when I was in high school. I remember sitting at this burger restaurant reacting to the Civil War trailer and seeing Tom Holland, Spider-Man jump in, steal Cap's shield and go, "Hey, everyone." And like from that point to this point is this awesome character arc. And I guess I'll just lead into like overall before we kind of get into the nitty gritty. Like, Connor, what do you think of this movie? Is it amazing? Is it great? Is it bad? Hopefully not.
It's hot. It's sexy. It's amazing. I love it.
Black Chrysanthemum of movies.
Mm-hmm.
No, better. The best way I could describe No Way Home to me is that it's a celebration of what came before while not overshadowing what's presently in it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The big thing, and I'm really happy the writers did this, because I was kind of fearful that everything that comes before MCU Peter would overshadow MCU Peter, and that wasn't the case. This was his movie, his moment. Just, I love it.
Peter
It's
one after us.
Yeah, he's
he is
Peter
Peter
one.
one.
Peter, what?
I think right now it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's basically razor thin between that and Into the Spider-Verse.
Both correct
MCU,
answers.
Certified bangers all around.
yeah. MCU, it's probably going to take the top spot over Infinity War, given enough time. Probably.
Jeez.
I don't know. But
How about you, Alden?
Yeah, I mean, the first word that kept going through my mind after I saw it, and we agreed, that this is something that gets better the more you think about it. Like Last Jedi, I would argue like Eternals, but that's a different podcast. This movie to me, this movie to me is classy. That was the first word that came to my mind. It was classy, and Trey, you talk about this arc of Tom Holland's Peter, which I think is a perfectly done character arc, befitting that he has, I think, the second best beginning to end, at least end as of right now, arc after Stark, his in canon mentor. But it's also this taking advantage of all these really happy accidents, disappointing times. It uses the real life situations that Spider-Man 4 was canceled after Spider-Man 3, was divisive and didn't make as much as 1 and 2. Well, it made more than 1 and 2, but the profits and everything, and that it wasn't seen as dependable. That gets canceled. Then Andrew gets fired from his 3 and doesn't get to do it
to a conference.
For showing up late to a conference. Yeah, for nothing. They just wanted him out. Them not taking Feige's advice on 2, and then Feige, now we know, saying like, why don't you just like let us do it? It used everything that has happened to its advantage to the point where it's so effortless that it's almost like, yeah, we meant to do that. And it is so everything. I mean, there's moments that are really, really soft and organic, but even like the really loud wink wink moments are still so. I mean, I get moved thinking about Andrew catching MJ, a moment that I called from the TV spot or trailer where that was seen. Like the second I saw MJ falling in the trailer, I thought either that's Andrew's hand and it's CG to look like Tom's, or they're knocking Tom out of the way. Something's happening, because that's him. That's his moment. But Peter Dafoe, who should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor, just everything about it was classy and organic. It felt like a beautiful handshake to everyone that loves this, and not unlike you mentioned the most excited you've been since Force Awakens. It feels a lot like Force Awakens. It feels a lot like we clapped for the Falcon, we clapped for Leia, we clapped for 3PO, we clapped for Han. Like it was just this hug. It was a hug of a movie.
Yeah,
absolutely. I guess where I roll on it is I knew like the big things that were coming, but yet they still felt impactful and wonderful. Like, like I said before, like seeing like being spoiled on TikTok, I knew that Andrew was coming. I knew Toby was coming.
Spoiled opening night.
I know, which
ruthless.
is crazy to me.
Oh my god!
But like,
I didn't see any on TikTok.
I'm so happy I don't go on TikTok.
Listen,
that
my algorithm's different.
My algorithm is still all No Way Home.
My For You page was just like I was sitting on the toilet and they were just giving me No Way Home spoilers every time. But what I will say, beyond the as much as I like knew going in, and it surprised me at how much I really did enjoy it. I feel like that especially after a second viewing, like I said, I was so overwhelmed the first time seeing it that like I couldn't enjoy it. I thought, oh, they're gonna kill Doc Ock. They're gonna do everything. For the most part, like I think that all the villains they bring in are. Like I remember one of the things that people talked about is like, oh, are they going to just get rid of all of Doc Ock's arc and Spider-Man 2? Are they going to get rid of all these arcs? I think for the most part, they really taken their arcs and expanded them and made them better in a lot of ways. From like you guys have talked about Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, at the end of Spider-Man 2, he's kind of a hero. At the end of this, he's a hero. Like he is actively helping the Spider-Man. And even like Jamie Foxx's Electro, I thought that, that was a guy who like I felt like when the Amazing Spider-Man 2, he really like dived into that character and wanted it to work. And it just didn't have a new, like to bring him back and do it in a new way. I thought he knocked it out of the park as well. I just think that there are so many great character moments in this beyond, just it like Alden. It's one of those movies that like even like the wink and nods to like other movies like are better are somehow better in that like they're back and like it's Peter saying try to do better to Doc Ock and like it's just like there's so many good moments like that that just like Trey, you've talked about how this movie like doesn't feel real and didn't feel like it should exist, but like it exists. It's real. It's wonderful. I can't get over how much I really did.
The multiverse is real.
It is. It is. Never be
real. It's crazy.
It is. But even with all the, all the different Spider-Man, all the callbacks to the other ones, the best parts of that movie are when it's just Peter, when it's Tom Holland acting, when it's my favorite part of the movie is, when Marissa Tomei, when Aunt May does with great power comes great responsibility. Like
That wasn't the line, Bill.
Well, with great power, there must always
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
There must also
right.
come great responsibility. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
good job.
it's
Second try.
Can anybody quote Amazing Spider-Man, Uncle Ben's whole thing?
responsibility. It's just a finger.
It goes on and on and on.
Responsibility.
Yeah,
and that's what it
not
ends in.
quite the same.
No,
It is long.
but it everything works really, really well for me. I'm very, very happy with how it ended and how it really it's like you guys have said, it's Tom's movie, it's Peter Parker's movie, and like it sets up some really exciting things for the future. It kind of brings him back to reality, or well, not reality, but like it brings him back to a place that a lot of people, including myself, love seeing Spider-Man, where he's just a guy. He doesn't have.
He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the brilliance of the movie is that they started with Civil War by having Tom say his own version of the moral. You know, when you have powers like I do, you know, whatever that version is that he says to Tony Stark.
Responsibility.
When you have power and you don't use it,
And
and bad things happen, they happen because of you.
They happen because of you. Exactly. See, this man's trying to audition for Tom's role. You see what he's doing? He's trying to snatch it from him.
I actually tried to be in. I actually applied to be in Spider-Man: Homecoming back in.
No, you did not.
Yeah,
Did you
I
really?
swear to God. I have my mom take a picture of me, like take a headshot of me. I applied, and I swear they didn't let me in because I looked too much like Tom Holland at the time. So, yeah.
See,
Not
this is
even-
like
You look too much like Spider-Man. They weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
We're like, this kid's
I
too
was so
heroic.
sad I didn't hear anything back.
He's too heroic. Let's get him out of here. Maybe
His
it's the
uncles
Clone Saga
definitely
then.
died. You know.
Trey Mitchell is
Yeah, I
Peter
have no
Parker.
uncles.
Wow.
Maybe
Just
for the
imagine
Clone
that.
Saga. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like you going back to that movie, we all at the time, and we were right. I'm not saying we shouldn't have thought this, but it was like, oh, what a good move. Like, don't do the origin. Organically work it in. He's been Spider-Man for an undefined amount of time. Now we know it was probably a year because of the freshman year announcement.
I'm excited for that.
Me too. I am very
I
excited.
am.
Yeah.
But the
animated
whole
show
concept
about
of like let's
Spider-Man
skip
before
through it
Civil War.
is this idea that it was like sleight of hand, like a magic trick. Like you thought we weren't doing the origin, we just did the origin stretched across 3 Avengers films, well, one Cap film, Captain America Civil War, 2 Avengers films, and 3 Spider-Man films. We did the origin, and you didn't actually even see it happening until those really personal moments. And it's Aunt May passing away and giving the words. It's him having everything taken from him to the point where it's like everything up to this was the prologue to Spider-Man. This is Peter Parker figuring out like how you cross over into adulthood, and it kept the problems, Spider-Man problems. My friends won't get into college because of me. That's a Spider-Man problem.
That is and like what's crazy to me is that nobody called that. Like
No.
if you would have said that, like when like you were talking about when Tom Holland was introduced in Civil War, that like you're not going to get they're not going to do the origin like you said, but like it's all these movies are his origin. I think that's brilliant. Like it's
basically
just
like it's a slap in the face to Iron Man Jr. critics, which makes me happy because I've never agreed
Same.
with that.
Yeah.
It's a bullshit argument. If you ask me.
It is a bullshit argument, honestly. Like you need to nudge him into this world because the other Spider-Man movies were not in shared universes. So you nudge him in, let him find his place as a hero, but like a hero and a man are not the same thing. Look at Tony Stark. He became Iron Man, still had a ton of shit he needed to work out about himself later on. Look at Thor. Thor was Thor, the God of Thunder. And then his story starts. You know, who am I? Nat was already the Black Widow. And then it's like, oh, what kind of woman am I? Are these people my family? What is this? Clint had his entire show just now. I could name everybody. Like, that's not what arcs are. And so for him to have this happen now, it's, you know, it's nudging him in the same direction. And we didn't mention Doctor Strange, who I think is perfectly used in this movie. Strange is there to remind him of like, hey man, there's certain elements that are out of our control, the grand calculus of the multiverse, all these things. And even he, by the end, is like taken aback by like the humanity of this kid, where you could tell where he's like doing the spell and he's like, everyone who loves you will. And then even he's like, Did I just say I love this kid? Like he has like a certain because
He gets sad for a second.
He gets sad.
He's losing a friend at the end, and it affects him. Just what kind of do you think about this movie?
Oh, that's a big question. My opinion of it has like changed over the 3 times, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the first was just a lot, like you guys said, and then second, I guess I have issues with the beginning, just like how the plot gets set up, I guess, and then it's like so quick to get there. Like the movie doesn't really start until like the other Spider-Man start to arrive, or no, when Doc Ock starts.
I think when Doc Ock gets there, it's kind of
that part.
That's like an inciting incident.
Yeah, but I'm sort of obligated to like it. But
no,
you
can
don't have
an
to.
opinion.
You don't have
I'll
to.
just
You don't
sit
have
here
to.
and shake. I'll just sit here and shake my head.
Tell us how you really feel. You know,
Don't let him shake his head at you.
Yeah. But you think it was really good.
Mhm.
Yeah, you saw it 3 times, which I mean, I know you were telling me that you
Yeah.
don't normally see movies that many times.
I'm not a big in-theater rewatcher. I don't have, even with A-list, I don't have that kind of time always. But first time I've ever seen a movie 3 times in theaters. Weirdly, Captain Marvel, a movie I don't like that much, I saw twice, and that was the record at the time.
I think I saw Suicide Squad 3 times just because every time I was like, I don't think there's no way it can be that bad.
Okay,
And I
I
just
was
kept
wondering
watching
which
it.
one you were talking about, and then I was like, okay,
The first one.
I thought
No,
I thought you were talking about James Gunn's
I was like, that's a good choice. So then I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, the
Oh
other one.
no, you saw.
No,
the
I
other one.
I saw The Force Awakens like 12 times somehow. And everyone's comments to that is like, how did you pay for it? I was like, I'm not saying I paid for it 12 times. I went with my mom, I went with my grandma, I went with my uncles, I went with my dad. Each individually paid for themselves and me. So I paid like 6 times. So No Way Home is not going to pass The Force
It was
Awakens.
free enjoyment, man. Like that's the best way to
It
do it.
It was pure serotonin. Like The Force Awakens was just this era of just pure bliss for Star Wars Twitter. And like I remember back before everyone had a Star Wars podcast, no one had a Star Wars podcast. And I was trying to make a Star Wars podcast when no one did. So I went to the Star Wars Newsnet, controversial people on this podcast. Good people. No one's
They're
watching
all
this.
they're all friends and good people. Let's end it there.
No one's gonna
End it there.
But, anyway, on Star Wars Newsnet's canteen, and I was like, hey, I want to start a podcast. Anyone interested? And I got told to F off. So that was definitely a different era than now. But I haven't been this excited about a movie since then. And I think a big reason why I was excited about this movie was the possibility of a live action Spider-Verse. And I was just so happy once like that actually happened, because I think all of us went into it like a little bit concerned that maybe it wouldn't happen. I mean, Variety
I thought it wouldn't.
straight up
I
spoiled
really
the movie before it, but
there was
I
a
can say,
small
like,
part of me, a
yeah, like,
small chaotic part of me that was like
hoped.
that hoped it didn't happen. And like looking at it, I'm like, that's just
Connor, I'm gonna kick you out of this podcast.
like no. Like literally, like early, like if I could go back to early December, Connor, I would tell him you're an idiot. This movie's great. Go see it as soon as possible. Do not go online. Because I was an idiot back then.
A month ago?
Yeah. This movie's amazing.
There was a certain dilemma for me. Like, so my sisters were like asking me about it. And like I wanted to tell them to like watch like, you know, Toby and Andrew's movies before, but like also didn't want to spoil it. So it's hard to like balance that because they're not.
I mean, it's pretty easy to say because like, oh, you know, Dafoe and Doc Ock are in.
Yeah, you could use the villains as the reason why.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think for me, like I wasn't as much worried that like they weren't going to be in it because I figured they were going to be in it. It's kind of like you were talking about The Force Awakens earlier. Like the thought to me before the Force Awakens came out and before this came out, like there was something in the back of my head that said like just whispered to me, what if it sucks? Like, you know, like
that was
what if it's no good?
It could
like
happen.
all this could happen. Like we're so excited for this, and then like what if it's not any good? thankfully that didn't happen in either case for me. But yeah, there was that idea in my head that like, what if they bring these Spider-Man back and like it just is awful. It just has it's just Spider-Man 3 all over again.
Or the idea of, are they going to make this movie to try and recapture or chase into the Spider-Verse, which I think would have been an easy trap, and like sending Tom Holland into this wacky, whoa, who are these guys? Like that works in animation because they led with so much heart for Miles, and because you have the freedom of animation, like to say like, oh, that's a noir world, that's an anime world, that's a pig world, like, okay, you know, this needed to be, and they weren't versions we grew up with. So this needed to be really delicate. And I knew for a fact that they were in it. I can say that now. You know, I wasn't going to blab about it on Twitter, but, you know,
you can now blab about it.
Yeah, I'd seen things. I'd heard things. I'd known things. And there's still stuff we haven't seen. I mean, there's cut material of the Charlie Cox court scene that got cut out. And a couple other sequences. The Tom's brother sequence has been spoken about. Tom Holland's brother having the cameo, and all that stuff. But there was a fear that I had going into it that the entrance for Toby and Andrew was going to be really contrived. I was worried. I wasn't worried about how they would do because they're both good actors. Especially, I think Andrew is an Oscar caliber actor.
Right,
like, he's fantastic.
He's proving that this year too.
He's proving that this year. Yeah, he's just out of this world. But my fear was for the script. I thought, is this going to be like well, Doctor Strange, if we could bring villains through, couldn't we bring heroes? Like, and then it would be like, let me get them. Like,
is this going to be more Feige or Pascal? You know, or Avi Arad or whatever his name is.
But then
Arad,
it happened.
Who thanked him? He's like a producer for all the Spider-Man movies. Who at the end was like, we would like. He basically wrote at the end of this movie, there's this text that says, we would like to thank the creative vision of Avi Arad for always believing in Spider-Man. And it was written by Avi Arad.
That's how I end all my days at work. I'd like to thank Bill Sheehy for a wonderful day of capturing the imagination of everybody in this office, you know?
Avi is like everything that's wrong with Spider-Man. Like, he's terrible. He was like a big reason why Spider-Man 3 was a mess. And so to like have him, and like, no one else wrote that. Yeah, no one else wrote that. It was so funny.
Wait, this was in the credits of No Way Home.
Yeah, he's a crazy.
This is at the end of the credits of No Way Home. At the end of the colorful portion.
It's my favorite part of the movie. In all honesty, I believe in Avi Arad.
It's so dumb, but yeah, just to round out that, like when they finally does happen, and the fact that they were already in the MCU for whatever 1 day, 2 days, the villains have been running around. When they show up and they were like, yeah, we were looking for your friend Peter. I was like, oh, so the spell, like, to me, that was good writing. The spell pulled everyone. It wasn't so conveniently, it only pulled bad guys. Because then you start to ask dumb questions like, where's Kirsten Dunst? Where's the? There's still questions to be had for sure, and like especially about the end spell.
Yeah, I think there's at some point there was like rumors that like she was going to be in it at one point. Like, wasn't she seen with
Kirsten
Deborah?
Was going to be in it, but
wasn't she with what's her face from Daredevil? Deborah Wolf.
Deborah
like they were seen like very close
also,
to where they were filming together.
Sally Field.
It wasn't.
Too.
Yeah.
That his Aunt May was, and maybe that was. I mean, we'll never know. So far, what they've been comfortable saying is that they considered post-credit scenes set in the Raimi and Webb verses.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Had they really?
It's been a lot better than Doctor Strange trailer, just in my opinion, because I think you could have done a post-credit scene that wasn't just a full-out trailer. But like how cool would it have been to see a scene where like where Toby gets home and he like has a daughter and he has Kirsten Dunst there and like
that's what I thought there was going to be. I thought
he's a professor.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I thought he was going to I thought at some point he was going to flash a ring on his hand, like they were finally got married, or I thought we would at the end see Kirsten Dunst holding a baby or something.
I was confused why he said it was complicated, but then they worked in it. Like, why is it complicated if they work?
because like eventually you get there, like complications happen, but like
Because every now and then
Just
she
with
brings up the
status.
jazz dance.
yeah, and
Yeah, she's
Spider-Man
like,
3.
you came to my job, played piano, and then just brought the girl that I thought you were cheating on me with.
And
that was
knocked
not
me
a great
down
move.
And-
Yeah,
in front of
he
everybody.
basically assaulted me.
and like once a month she
Willem
brings
Dafoe,
in
not a
Bryce
great
Dallas
guy.
Howard's Gwen Stacy to come slap him, just like to make to get
Yeah.
like, you know.
Not great. But just going back to the Spider-Man, I guess.
Mhm.
To me, it was so cool that they introduced Andrew first.
Yep.
Because, like, I think in general, most people prefer Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I think at least before the movie, that was the common take. So to have the first portal open, and you see him kind of like he's kind of doing stuff with his body, which Andrew Garfield, if you go back and watch his movies, he expresses so much emotion by just like doing his shoulder stuff and moving his arms. He doesn't have the lenses that express emotion. So you see him and he's doing stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, it's Andrew. To have him come first and reveal his mask off, which was like, at first I was like, why did he take his mask off? But then it's because they were, Zendaya was like, Peter. So of course he was like, okay, these people know who I am, which is good writing in my opinion. But to have him come in first just meant so much to me as like a giant Andrew Garfield fan. I watched that movie with Jess for the 5th time, and like I still lose my freaking mind when that happens. And he's in his Spider-Man suit. He's literally in this universe the whole time wearing spandex.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's so great.
I have two that might be controversial opinions about the Spider-Man. I think that if Andrew Garfield had gotten the opportunity to be the MCU Spider-Man, I think he'd be better than Tom Holland. Like I think that he is what say what
Yeah,
you will
I kinda
about
Best
with that.
actor.
say what you will about the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think, you know, he's an okay Peter Parker. He's a wonderful Spider-Man. Like that's
Based, you know.
I think that he would have done a really, really great job. And like him,
You're half right. He's a great Peter Parker.
him, like seeing him like as the first Spider-Man, like I think you see all the great things about what make him a great Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's naturally got that wittiness to him that you want in a Spider-Man. And he's just whenever he was on screen, I couldn't look away. And like while I did enjoy seeing Tobey Maguire, there are a couple lines where I'm like, you want to do that again?
Well, and it's
know,
really meta too.
little more.
Because like
yeah, a little more.
they know, especially Fahey knows because he was involved in those conversations and offered to help them make those Andrew movies. Like they know what the common criticisms were. Like he's emo Spider-Man, he's too hot to be Spider-Man, he's all these things, and they lean into it. They let Andrew say after Gwen's death, I stopped pulling my punches. I went to this dark place. They hint at these years that have been pretty brutal for him because they know, hey, you thought this was emo Spider-Man? Well, guess what? It was, and you're gonna love it now. Like and Toby, oh, you think Toby's cheesy? Well, we're gonna lean into it. Youth pastor, his back still hurts.
You know,
Like,
like,
youth pastor thing
I
was so
enjoyed
cool.
that. It's just like for me, it was like there when he was talking to Holland's version of Peter Parker after after May had talked or after May had died, not talked. She talked and then died.
She talked a little.
She talked a little, then died a lot. But it felt kind of stilted, like when he was talking about. I can't remember exactly, but it just felt like wooden, kind of when he died, and then like it just kind of felt like that.
We don't tolerate Toby slander on this podcast.
No,
I think
listen.
it was just like in contrast to
Yeah,
Andrew
it just
like doing the most.
felt something.
into it.
Something felt a little off. Like overall, loved him in it. I thought he did a wonderful job. But like there are just a couple things where I'm just like, try doing that again. You know, let's. But I love Alden's point about they're really roll it again. Exactly. They did lean into it, into what to the best parts of those particular Spider-Man. But yeah,
I will argue that the scene where the 3 Spider-Men meet on top of Peter 1's high school is my favorite scene in the MCU because like there's so much happening. Aunt May just died. we're getting the 3 Spider-Men interacting for the first time. We're getting Peter 1 saying, my aunt told me with great power, and then Peter 2 says, comes great responsibility. And Toby's acting in that scene, like his eyes wide. He goes, with great power comes great response. Like, my Uncle Ben told me that. This guy is me. He's my brother. And Andrew just acting his Garfussy off. Like, absolutely losing.
Deep in the Garfussy.
Deep in the Garfussy. It just acted it all off.
And it goes back to Alden's point about how this is his origin. Like, wait, my Uncle Ben told me that. My Uncle Ben told me that. This is the origin for Spider-Man.
This plays with because yes, this is a watershed movie making moment. Like DC is making theirs. Having multiple Flashes, having Keaton, having Affleck, having all these people, and we'll see how it pans out. But we can really credit Spider-Verse for training the audience to accept multiple versions and not care. And then for MCU, it was Loki and What If that kind of set up these rules. And you can see in What If, particularly and appropriately in the Doctor Strange episode, that there are universal constants. There are things that will simply happen. And WandaVision actually as well. WandaVision mentions Nexus beings, these beings that, are in the Marvel Comics lore, they're the same no matter what multiverse you're in. They're a Nexus being, the Scarlet Witch, Agatha, I think. But all that to say, the death of Peter Parker's guardian is a universal constant, no matter how it happens. And that's what, they say that he says great power, he says responsibility. But then he goes, that's what Uncle Ben said. And then Andrew, the night he died. Like, that's the realization for all three that, whoa, for all our differences, like, the core does not change. Just like how Doctor Strange could not change Christine's death, no matter what he did. That is going to happen in some way. And so Marvel having that, the storytelling maturity to say, nope, these are our rules. We're sticking to them. If you think it's wacky, it's wacky. And hopefully, we'll talk about like the ending spell and everything too. But for the most part, using that to say like these guys are brothers as much as they are the same person, they've done well with that. Like, yeah, Loki and Sylvie are both Loki, but they can still bang. Like these guys are all Peter, but they can still be brothers. Like,
Loki is so good. I love Loki.
Yeah, I'm really happy that they leaned into the brotherhood aspect.
Me too.
So much.
I don't see the Batman saying "I love you" to
Dude,
each
no.
other.
If they made a Batman multiverse movie, that movie might have the worst chemistry of anything ever. Like,
Christian Bale.
No, like bring them all. Like just do Keaton, do
only
do
Will
Kilmer,
Arnett's
do
Batman
Clooney,
is there. Only Lego Batman's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Lego
like,
Batman,
okay,
Batman.
here's a question for that then. Do you bring on like, is he an actual Lego figure or is he like,
yes, he is.
Or is he
I
like
think
full
Looney Tunes.
human sized Lego? Like
He's not Will Arnett playing him. He's a Lego piece.
I'm picturing a full human sized Lego piece.
He's
Like,
stop
just
motion too. He's not CGI.
just like that. Yeah, exactly.
Going back to Aunt May, I think her death, because we've seen her in 3 movies, that was my favorite quote Uncle Ben death of all 3 of them. Like, seeing her, because it was so good. You don't, unless you're like me and you're crazy and you got everything spoiled before the movie.
Yeah,
you didn't know she was gonna die. So having her get up and be like, I'm okay. I just fell on my ass. I'm okay. And then she's like, I just need to take my breath. And she, falls down, and Tom Holland's acting.
Oh,
I know this is a comic book movie, and I know comic book movies don't do well at the Oscars per se, but his acting in that scene is some of the best acting I've seen this whole year.
I agree.
He
Wholeheartedly
shined in this movie, and I know a lot of times, or not a lot. I know we've talked a lot about Toby and Andrew, but Tom Holland, I thought was just absolutely amazing in this movie. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the Aunt May scene for a second. What did Connor, you said you saw spoilers about Aunt May, right?
Yes.
Was that something you saw? How did that scene affect you, even though you did see the spoilers?
So I didn't know okay, so like there was like a whole thing about like what happens in the scene, and the one thing I remember was like, oh, the grenade's gonna kill her or whatever. And when all that happened, I was like, I kind of forgot. It was one of those spoilers where it's like I forgot about it until it happened, and then I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's real. So like when she got up and everything, I was like, oh cool, it was fake. It's not gonna happen. And then she fell down, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such
Don't
a
do
good
this to me.
fake out. It's such a good fake out. It's like it gives you just enough time of like talking to be like, get out of there. But then
I think
Happy being the one who's like, Peter, run. Like he doesn't even get to grieve over his aunt for more than a minute because the freaking Department of Damage Control is there trying to kill him because freaking Jameson is trying to frame this kid who just lost his aunt.
who is
It's
brilliant in
ridiculous.
this, by the way. The
yes.
selling supplements on the Daily Bugle is one of the
Uh-huh.
funniest things I've ever
I'm
seen.
surprised there wasn't anything with Toby like recognizing him or something,
Yeah.
like any line about that because
Mm.
it's the same.
One of my only criticism with this movie is that Toby and Willem didn't really get a lot together.
They didn't interact a lot, yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
wish there was a
mhm.
little bit more with those two. Just
Well,
because
when he
they're my
says like,
favorite
"What have I
family.
done?" and he looks over and he's laying there stabbed, that would have been the moment to be like, Peter, like even just like is Harry okay? Like anything, just like
Yeah.
he's back in that something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Defoe
that's a
was
great point.
just delicious. In
He's-
this role.
Well, let's
Unreal.
full on transition into that because I think the villains. We obviously talked about the start. Yeah, we obviously talked about the Spider-Man and everything with that. But the villains in this movie absolutely killed it. Bill, who is your standout performance from this overall? We'll talk about more about the villains, but to you, which performance really stood out to you?
The easy answer is Willem Dafoe. And like I think we're gonna talk at length about him.
Yeah,
but-
he's in one of my favorite scenes.
I think for me, in the interest of just saying something different, I like Jamie Foxx and I also like Thomas Hayden Church. I felt like he was the one who was most like, oh shit, I'm in a new world. Everything was better for him in this world, basically.
Mhm.
He looked completely different. He wasn't blue. You kind of, even at the end, like when he was talking with Andrew, he was still kind of likable,
Yeah.
It's weird. Like one of my favorite lines from the movie is like, he's talking about, help poor people and all that. I thought you were going to be black.
You have a mask. Yeah,
I
cool.
thought you were going to be black. Like that's brilliant.
And then
It's just
the
brilliant.
second
He said,
and his
the second-
reaction. I'm sorry, man.
I'm so exactly.
So
The
Uh,
second he said, "There's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere," I think someone in my theater was like, "Miles!"
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, same
you
here.
played the PS4 game.
Yep. I liked his a lot. I thought that, there wasn't a whole lot for Lizard to do besides being a lizard, which
He was great. He was great though.
he was
I have
great.
something you can do.
Okay, but the line of him saying, what did he say?
So MJ is like holding a gun or like she's doing something in the Undercroft, and the lizard goes, There's no way she's his girlfriend. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, is she too pretty? Is she not pretty enough? Like, what does the lizard mean in this situation?
What does the lizard mean?
We need a
I
I can
lizard
turn you into a
romance.
lizard.
Lizard romance insights.
I think it just for me, and I'll let somebody else talk about it after this. I think Jamie Foxx's Electro added more to what he had already done and made him more likable and made him into a character that I actually was like, I wouldn't mind seeing more of him. So
Yeah.
that because we're going to talk about Willem Dafoe because like that's just another whole stratosphere of of stuff.
Discussion.
But yeah, exactly. But that's where
Yes. Which villain really stood out to you?
I like Doc Ock probably.
Yeah.
He just Alfred Molina just killing it, having the voices in his head. I did notice. I didn't mention this to you when it like the chip started working again. His like claws or whatever. Like it was like white light instead of red.
Mhm.
He was good.
Yeah,
Which I enjoyed that visual cue.
yeah.
But yeah, he was good.
He is my favorite moment in the film, which, I mean, Andrew popped me up pretty goated to me, but Toby and Doc Ock just talking to each other, the writing, the Ant-Man and the Wasp writers, man, they killed it with this movie.
Oh, is that who did it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
McKenna, Eric Summers.
Good for
Yeah, it
them. Oh,
How are you, my dear boy? Trying to do better.
Broke
So
me.
good.
That like sent that and him catching MJ. Him catching MJ number one, but
Yeah.
like, and again, like the best thing is that there are moments that take you all over. Like I think that this has some of the most touching moments in the whole franchise, and I mean that for Spider-Man and MCU. And it also has some that are like legitimately terrifying. Like I think that Dafoe he's doing a horror movie performance in a superhero.
He gets punched and he's like, dun, dun, and he's smiling.
He's
like-
freaking, that scares me every time.
and that's like
His
that. Like
teeth aren't really straight either. Like, you need some dental work. It's going crazy.
The Norman's on sabbatical line, like just by itself,
Honey.
that's a wonderful line. Just Defoe delivering it just makes it just.
Mhm.
I feel like
Oscar
that was ad libbed. Like I feel like Willem may have put that one in.
You have to know,
Probably.
like, yeah, like some of them are. Yeah,
I want
Does
to.
everyone-
I want to know
yeah.
what was ad libbed.
Does everyone
So
have a
we-
favorite Goblin line?
Norman's
Some
on
of them feel
sabbatical,
very-
honey.
Norman's
That's
on
it.
Norman's on
sabbatical.
sabbatical, honey, because it's not just Norman's on sabbatical. It's the honey. It's the it's the
Honey.
syllables, honey.
honey.
It's great.
That
Norman's
whole
on
speech is
sabbatical,
great. Like
honey.
she's trapped you in her moral mission.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's super good.
Oh, and then I think another line would be like when he said, like you're so strong to take it all. You're so strong to have it all. Too weak
Too
to
weak
take
to
it.
take it. I like the follow up to that. It's probably my favorite when he is finally like on his knees, final battle, and he's like, "Poor Peter, too weak to send me home to die." Like,
Yes.
so good. I was sitting there in the theater, like with my chocolate cookie dough, whatever the hell I was eating, like, oh my god,
This motherfucker's spitting. I think. Just do you have is there a moment with Goblin that stands out to you, like in terms of his delivery, anything like that?
I just like the switching, like Willem does such a good job of like
Mhm.
signifying when like Goblin is in control and when it's Osborn.
Mhm.
And so I like because of his face, he does such a good job with that.
I think he does. He
I
finds
love
the
that he was the main villain
yeah.
for Tom
And
Spider.
it wasn't even obvious though. Like it wasn't obvious until the amazing scene where Peter's spider sense hits.
Yes.
And like the camera zooms in, but the background like goes further away. This awesome like camera technique that John Watts, an amazing director, if you ask me, like he perfected this movie. This is John Watts' film. Like
Aunt
that.
May burning sage.
Yeah, and May just burning sage in the background, like Gwyneth Paltrow. And that scene of Peter's like spider sense is just so good.
Mhm.
And he's finally just flip, and he gets Green Goblin, and
amazing.
it's so good.
Mhm.
And
It is amazing. It is
I got
like
kind of spoiled on that. Like I didn't get spoiled on the scene, but
Right.
all I saw was
who
someone on
spoiled you?
Twitter
We
going,
need to find them, Connor.
No, no, but like someone was like, like Peter's spider sense was fantastic in all caps. This scene, and I'm like, awesome. And then I saw it, and I was like, holy shit!
And like
that was incredible.
what's so impressive to me is that like Willem Dafoe does such a good job of making you believe that like he's actually good for a second. Like he wants to
Yes.
be saved. Like you don't like. Oh no, he's good again. Like you want him to be good. Like
yeah, the whole like if you want to commute a long commute,
To
you can
another
have a job at
universe.
To a different
Oscorp,
dimension.
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he's just stealing donuts too at
Norman's-
feast.
Norman's
Like he
a
was
good
just like
guy.
put him in his pocket. Like I thought that was funny.
Norman's main issue is he doesn't show his son that he loves him.
Mhm.
Like Norman was great to Peter as Norman, not the Goblin in
Mhm.
the first Spider-Man movie. Like he's a good guy who when the Goblin kicks in, he's not a good guy. But
Can we quote you on that? Green Goblin, not
Norman
a great guy.
quote, not a great guy.
Not a great guy.
Also, the fact that Tom, that MCU Tom Holland, yeah, God damn, I can't talk.
The
I can't.
Tom.
Yeah,
No, Tom
Peter-
Cruise is
Peter
MCU
hates church.
Spider-Man.
the fact that he decided to
Same
say, the fact that he decided to be like, we're gonna cure these guys and we're gonna save them of their perish of their deaths, was just really, really interesting to me because like. See, like obviously we've all talked about redemption at one point or another because like Star Wars, it's a big thing. But like the fact that it was executed so perfectly in this, and like Doctor Strange was like, "Well, I'll be damned," it was like
Yeah.
phenomenal work.
Strange is a surgeon, and he would have handled it surgically, like, and he was prepared to. And Stark would have pressed that button in a second. Most of them would have, but that's what's so beautiful about Toby with the hey. That's what we do. Like that's what is Spider-Man and him. You know, you got the sign behind you there, Trey and Jess. The cure that ass. Like in a way, like this movie could have been the most cynical thing of like we kicked all their asses, now we're gonna kick them again. Like no, but it was a movie about
one more time.
Yeah, it was a movie about kindness. It was a movie about charitable works. It was a movie about. And that's why even in her dying moments, Aunt May is still like, no, we did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it doesn't matter how it affected us. It only matters that we tried. And her tombstone having the PS4 Aunt May tombstone, spoiler for PS4.
If you help, if you help someone, you help everyone.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, she's like halfway through.
I'm so sorry.
I don't care.
Spoilers, jeez.
Yeah,
Day for Aunt May
that's
in
her
that
fault.
game either.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Aunt
like
May
Doc Ock was also really good. I can't choose between those two. Like when I saw No Way Home for the first time before rewatching the Tobey movies, I was like, all right, it's Dafoe, Dafoe, it's Green Goblin, he's the one, it's over. And then I rewatched the Tobey movies and I was like, shit, I don't know now.
Or is it Venom?
It's probably Venom. My spider sense is tingling, if you know what I'm saying.
What were you gonna say?
Something I realized about like a scene I enjoyed that I didn't like really pick up on why I enjoyed it was at the beginning with when Doc Ock first arrives, is because it's the only scene where like Spider-Man or Peter is like saving civilians. Like the stuff on the Statue of Liberty is just them fighting the villains, which was like really exciting and like a lot of stuff happens. But like part of other Spider-Man movies are like saving the New Yorkers, and like that happens in that scene. But so it was like the big moment of that, which I liked, and it was fun to watch.
I think my biggest worry going into the movie was you're gonna bring these villains back, and it's gonna be dope, but you're gonna send them back to the moment that they died just to die again. Like I wasn't sure about that. And if you're telling me that I got a Spider-Man movie with Doctor Strange, with multiple Peter Parkers, where the main storyline is there's a conflict between Doctor Strange and Peter, where Peter wants to rehabilitate the villains and Doctor Strange doesn't, that's an awesome story. Like on paper, that's really, really good Spider-Man. And I just loved, I love the scene in Happy's apartment where they're all sitting there. Sandman sits down, tries to rub some extra sand off the couch just because he's a good lad. Electro's there. Lizard's just in the feast truck for some random reason. He didn't want to be seen entering an apartment. I don't know if the apartment had a no lizards clause or something like that. But I love that scene, and having all of those villains, like having Doc Ock in Green Goblin, or not Doc Ock in Green Goblin, but Otto Octavius and Norman Osborn interact with each other was something that I never thought would happen, especially those versions of those characters. And having the scene where Doc Ock gets rehabilitated and he's like screaming about the chip. He's like, I'm not a lapdog. And he gets the chip in and he goes dead for a second. Then he comes back. Is so relieving because Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is not a villain, really. It's those damn tentacles, man.
Yeah.
They really get you. Yeah.
He's a victim in his own way. He lost Rosie. He lost himself, and that's why it's so tragic when he said, because Goblin's gonna be Goblin, but you don't know when. And when he says to Norman, are you ready to be whole again? You're like,
more
it's
darker
going to hell in T minus I don't know how long, but it's coming.
I really thought
yeah.
that Doc Ock was going to go bad when he came back to the battle. I'm like, nah, they can't do this. They can't go this predictable route, and they didn't.
And they fake you out because you see him get blasted by Electro, but you don't know if it worked or not. He just leaves. So
yeah,
so that might have been my favorite character moment in this whole film is when Doc Ock comes back and is a hero.
Yep.
Because he's trying to find this resource that is natural energy for the world. That is his villain origin story, is being a scientist where he's creating this sun that is limitless energy. And then all of a sudden his wife is dead. He has no control over his mind and his body. And he's a villain, like robbing banks and trying to kill Aunt May. So having him full circle come back and be a hero, and then ending this movie where he's, I guess, in his own time, in some different timeline where he survives, was just so wholesome. And I just think Doc Ock so good in this movie. Like the writers could have made him a villain. Like they could have done some microchip where Norman, because there were these leaks before the film that Norman was gonna make all the villains bad by mind controlling them. And I'm really glad that didn't happen. And Doc Ock got rehabilitated, and he was able to have this full arc that started in 2004 and ended now. And it's just this awesome journey. And that was just so powerful to me. Any last thoughts about the villains in this movie?
I'm the last thought I have is that I am just so glad that they did a really good job of not only bringing them back, but expanding their storylines from the original movies. I just think that they did a really, really good job. Like I said earlier, with maybe the exception of Lizard, even Thomas Hayden Church is saying,
Lizard was great.
Lizard was great.
The world would be better if everyone were lizards. I will say it. I mean, a few of us here live in Florida. There are a lot of lizards here. They're
lizards everywhere.
Ruckus.
Lizards everywhere.
True.
But I'm grateful that they did a good job of expanding their stories and bringing them back in really cool ways. So
yeah. Before we get to the end, I just want to say how much of a dipshit I am because I'm wearing a Daredevil
Can I quote you on that?
We haven't even mentioned the man.
That's true.
That was a cool cameo. I still need to watch Daredevil.
It was my first shit moment.
Nope.
All right, Connor. It was great seeing you, buddy. We're gonna have to go.
Damn it! I had a speech prepared for my favorite scene and everything. Shit.
Oh man. But yeah. Any thoughts about Matt Murdock showing up here? I know we're on a timeline. We're kind of going back to the beginning. But all of them. What were your thoughts on Natty Boy showing up?
I loved it. I loved the way that, again, much like the Spider-Man entrances into the story, there's a cheesier version of this, right? Where they could have done a lot of I know a lawyer, a lot of that lead up, and they were like, nope, skip it, he's there. When the cane came down, the theater clapped before it even showed his face. It was a great little beat. The moment of I'm a really good lawyer catching the brick is so classy because it's perfect for people that love the character, and it's perfect for people that maybe it's their first time seeing the character. And I think about kids watching this movie and how they must have think well, what is that guy? Because they don't know. Yeah,
that really happened to me.
Who's a really
explaining who Daredevil was during the show. I was sitting next to some 12-year-old, and he's like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's Daredevil."
See, he's a lawyer who's a really good lawyer.
He's a really good lawyer. He went to law school.
Matt Murdock himself. I did not see that coming. But
nice.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
it was there. I took it.
Jess is drinking.
But I did think that it was my first oh shit moment of the movie. It just felt like, oh shit,
same.
There's the boy. And when anything good happened in this movie, I immediately thought of Trey because I knew oh my god, Trey's going to lose his mind. or in my case, Trey has already lost his mind.
Yeah, I am a big fan of Daredevil and Spider-Man. They have my favorite dynamic of any two characters really in comic books. My Twitter header for months has been Daredevil and Spider-Man. I just adore those characters and adore their banter and stuff. So I have this that I created called The All Around. And in 2019, after Far From Home came out, I wrote this article about like what I think could happen in Spider-Man 3. And I was like, make it Kraven hunting down Peter, and then Peter needing lawyer advice from Matt Murdock. And then you find out at the end that maybe Kingpin hired Kraven, all this stuff. But I'm so happy it was Matt. It could have been Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, and that would have been great. Like, she has a show coming out. I would have totally understood why that would have been her. But to me, as a giant Daredevil fan, there was just something really special seeing Charlie Cox as Daredevil. He is my single favorite casting of any superhero ever. I think Charlie is just the definition of Matt Murdock. And seeing him was just, I wish there was a little bit more.
And the fact that we got Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, and then like a week before, and then we got Spider-Man No Way Home with Kingpin. Like, those guys are coming soon.
We have an anti-Hawaiian shirt person here.
It was because I said I didn't really understand it, and then he just kept going, "It's Hawaiian Christmas," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "It's Hawaiian Christmas."
Mel Kalikimaka.
They're at a formal event.
I went and bought this in spite of her, just because I was like, I found this at a comic book store, and I was like, Hawaiian Christmas. That's the answer.
I got you.
I don't subscribe to that tradition.
Have we gone through our
me in front
favorite
of
scenes?
Vanessa.
Yeah, there was a point of contention in the apartment about Vincent D'Onofrio's Hawaiian shirt. But
Trey's like,
speaking of,
in the spirit of the holidays, I will forgive.
don't mention that in this house.
I want you to rethink your policy towards Hawaiian shirts at Christmas.
When I was a boy, I wore a Hawaiian shirt. But speaking of a certain bald man, where would you guys like to see this story going forward? I mean, I personally think we're going to see more stories with Tom Holland's Peter Parker. I love the final scene of this movie, the final swing. Something that's really important in Spider-Man movies is this final swing. We get this awesome scene with Michael Giacchino's amazing score. That man went off in this movie. His score is just absolutely amazing. But that final scene where we see a homemade suit, and the homemade suit is homemade because Tony Stark's tech no longer recognizes Peter because his mind was like everyone's memory of Peter was erased. That was gorgeous. And I think the suit in itself was amazing. But that scene is just perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of you have anything to say about that scene before we kind of go on to where we want to see this character moving
That
forward.
Scene was pretty good.
I
was
loved
pretty
it.
awesome.
I think it was kind of the perfect ending to the movie and I think in terms of where it's going from here, I think you can get, and I hate even saying this because like I love Tom Holland Spider-Man. I think we've gotten really good Spider-Man stories from him, but like you're gonna go into traditional street level Spider-Man stories. You're gonna I think you're gonna see Kingpin. I think you're gonna see Daredevil. You're gonna see Venom at some point. I think Kraven the Hunter will come in at some point as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is, and hell, we haven't even talked about like there could easily just be the MCU versions of Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn. Like you could see those at some point. You could like there are other villains that like MCU versions of them that we haven't seen yet. And I think
the Osborn thing, that's the one thing I'm going to push back against, just because Norman came into the MCU, said he Googled his last name, and there was nothing there to show up. So I just don't know.
Oscorp doesn't exist.
Yeah, he said Oscorp
does.
No,
but
he
like
said Oscorp didn't exist. So
and listen, I know this is all over the internet, but like I can take or leave that Timothée Chalamet as Harry Osborn. Man, Matthew McConaughey as Norman as a Green Goblin would fuck like
Tom
like,
Holland,
like
Tom
so
Holland
hard.
Tom Holland suggesting Timothy just because he wants to fight him.
Yeah,
he totally does.
Let's be
I
real.
have a copy of Timothée Chalamet's Dune right here.
There it is.
Speaking of him, I wanted
He
to
had to
plug that
watch.
the whole time.
He had to watch his girlfriend on the press tour with Timmy and didn't like it.
Shami,
obviously. Jess.
I question if like is this the last we see of like MJ and Ned? How long are the members wiped, or will he like how long is that gonna last? Or
It's a great question. Like going into the next trilogy is like, I mean, the thing that everyone was on TikTok was like, is Ned gonna become the Hobgoblin? That was like a thing.
I don't think so.
There's a chance. I mean, it would kind of piss me off if my best friend erased my memory and I never knew that we were best friends together. That's like an inciting incident that could probably cause some conflict. But
Ned promised him. Ned promised him he wouldn't die. I'm not going to die in your arms, or whatever he said when they were.
But Peter also promised Ned that he would go back and tell him, so he broke a promise too. And
I don't think he'll figure that out. We'll see.
We'll see. But Alden, where do you kind of want the story to go moving forward if we do get another trilogy with Tom Holland Spider-Man?
I'll start with MJ and Ned. I think that it's part of the tragedy of Spider-Man is that he has to break promises to keep people safe, because he was fully prepared to let them back into his life, but then he sees the bandage on her head and he's like reminded, like, man, how many times am I going to put these people through hell? Like, no, I'm going to take my coffee, I'm going to leave. And those are the hard choices that Spider-Man makes. He doesn't get to be Stark as much as he loved him. He doesn't get to say, I am Iron Man, and have the world mostly love you. That's a luxury. And so I think that dealing with that in the next film, there's some visual things I really like, because as we know, it's they don't remember Peter Parker exists. So he can't even graduate high school. In his box of things, when he moves in, he has a GED book.
Yep.
Like,
so good.
He's not even going to get a diploma.
Technically speaking, I looked this up. He could go to MIT
with a GED.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because he would be technically.
I love that Connor looked that up. That is so wholesome.
Yeah.
Can you go to MIT with a GED?
And I looked it up.
Did you watch Spider-Man No Way Home and wonder if you needed a?
Yes, I did.
That's me. So I wondered about that too, because that puts them in a different state. So that takes them out of his home territory. So it could be a natural way to get Jacob and Zendaya out of the franchise if they wanted to. That's awesome.
Big fan of foreign shirts.
I didn't even notice that. That's great. Jess is like, I reserve my comments to myself. But I think that, there are rumors that, we know that Riri Williams, the Ironheart character from the comics who builds her own suit, she goes to MIT. And there's rumors that she'll pop up in Black Panther 2. So maybe Black Panther 2, Riri's in class, and in the back is, Ned and something like that.
Ned, the CEO of sex.
So that they're still in the universe. But as for Peter, I think that it's going to be tragic. I think he'll look for Matt Murdock because he remembers him, even if Matt doesn't remember him, and he can tell him like, "Hey, man, I know there's something up with you." And Matt, how do you know that?
And can we talk about the spell for a second? Like,
yes.
People remember Spider-Man, but they don't remember him. So he could just show up as Spider-Man to some of these people that knows that he's or that know Spider-Man, and then just say take his mask off and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm Peter Parker. You remember me?" Well,
I think that it's an altering of reality because it's about their brains, but it's also about reality itself. Because Happy knows that he knew May in a way that connected to Spider-Man, but he doesn't remember quite why, and that's their conversation at the funeral, at the graveyard. So I'm wondering, if you sat down all the Avengers that were in Infinity War and Endgame, and you asked them, you know who Peter Parker is? They'd probably all say no. But if you asked them, do you remember fighting on the planet Titan with Spider-Man? They'd be like, yeah, never knew who he was though. I think that their memories have been altered so that maybe they can think hard and think long, but they're only going to see the Spider-Man mask.
Right.
Yeah. They're never gonna. That's how I interpreted it. But he could probably go to someone like Strange and convince him that a spell was done by giving him enough information. I know about this. I know about the dungeon. I know about the ruins of Kakal. I know about the party at Kamartage. I know that maybe that could be how you get them on board. It'll be hard to get Ned and MJ on board because there's nothing superhero-y to convince them with. With Matt Murdock, you could say, I know you have supernatural reflexes. I know you do. And that's
this Daredevil comic. It's kind of like a merger of two different runs, but you kind of find out in Charles Soule, aka the Goats, Daredevil run that Kilgrave erased everyone's memory that Matt Murdock was Daredevil because he outed himself. And then Matt goes to Foggy and was like, I'm Daredevil. And then Foggy has this kind of like, oh shit, I remember that now. Like now that you tell me that, I can remember. Yeah. So I wonder if Peter does go to Ned at some point. If he does,
that would
go to
be really
MJ at some
interesting.
point. Yeah,
That'd be really
It's going to
interesting.
be interesting because, like, that's the only thing I honestly care about is the whole, like, thing with Ned and MJ. That, and I want his landlord to be Mr. Dickovich.
Dickovich.
dude,
That's all
that'd
I
be
want.
amazing.
Where's
It's not
Ned
gonna happen.
Rand?
We already
Like-
heard his
like-
voice, but
The thing
Right?
is that with him, like, MCU Peter's interactions with both Mr. Dinkovich and his daughter would just be the most wholesome thing ever. I would love to see that.
Mhm.
And
His
just
promises were crackers. My daughter would be fit.
and
He's a
just
good
like,
boy.
I'm sorry. You know, Mr. Dinkovich, it would just be great.
And Mr. Aziz at the pizza shop.
Oh
We need
god,
Mr. Aziz.
yeah.
Always late, Parker.
So my thing,
But
Go ahead, Jess.
yeah, go ahead.
mine with the last spell was just confusion about like, did like Andrew and Toby? Did everyone forget that Peter Parker? It applied to the like with the first spell. I was confused with
that would be interesting. Like imagine if they go back to their universes and no one knows that they exist.
Oh, that's a
like
good point.
that could be the plot point for Amazing Spider-Man 3 if that does happen.
Speaking of which,
I don't know if I wanted to, but
It'd be
Yeah,
I
I'm just gonna be interested to see
That's a good question.
how Peter will get Ned and MJ to remember if he does, or if he's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna build this friendship with them from the ground up
Yeah.
and just not mention any
Well,
of this because
the thing that's interesting is we didn't talk about the other villain that they brought in, which was Tom Hardy's Venom for
Mhm.
all of a minute, which is a great gag. It's a great post-credit scene to post-credit scene gag of him entering and exiting, leaving a bit of the black suit to set up that storyline if they want to do it eventually, which I'm sure they will. But the thing that I want to see from this Tom Holland Spider-Man 4, if that's indeed what happens, is that, you know, because Peter has to wrestle with the fact that he made that choice for them. He has to wrestle with the fact that he gave them up. I think the perfect character to bring in, especially for college age, is Black Cat. And you
Ooh.
bring in Felicia, and Felicia Hardy is this woman that always keeps Peter on his toes because she toes the line between not good and evil. She's not a heinous supervillain, but responsibility and not responsibility. And I think that if she's like, no, I could keep up. I don't care that you're Spider-Man. Like, let's go have adventures. Let's go beat some people up. He might be really enticed by that because it's, oh, this is someone I don't have to protect until, you know, he finds out she's stealing from like the feast shelter or something. Like something that really tests him, and then maybe he gets the black suit and they do a movie where the black suit is awesome. And it's not until maybe the end of that movie that he's like, I can't really sleep. I feel really off. I feel a lot of anxiety. Slowly build the black suit saga up.
do you have any actress in mind who would play Black Cat? Because
yes, Lily Reinhart from Riverdale.
Ooh, okay, nice.
I'm down for that.
She would knock it out of the park. Gone. She would knock it so far out.
Only
of
if
the
Cole Sprouse is Eddie Brock.
No. You bring back Topher Grace. Why not?
Oh, jeez.
I'm
There are
telling
some
you,
things
man.
that say the same.
Cole Sprouse is Eddie Brock. You
have
heard
we
it here.
talked about our favorite scenes?
I know you
Or
want
like-
to, so why don't
Vince.
why don't you? Said D. Sweeney. My friend Jesse
Okay.
says, I will not disagree to that one.
That could be good too.
Jeff
I
might,
should
but-
I gotta get into everything with
Wait, did
what
Jess
could
say no to
happen.
Sydney, sweetie? Is that
Yeah.
Say
She just-
anything.
She does look kind of mean. Like she looks like she's when I was in middle school, she would definitely call me fat. You know,
Big
Like-
boy, right?
Damn.
like she
Yeah, that's
definitely
what-
would. Like, to be fair,
Nah, I'll
Like-
keep my mouth closed. Anyways, Connor, what do you want to
Easy,
say before I
easy
get in
there.
trouble?
that. No, just like pretty much there's a lot of scenes that are just really, really good in this movie, but like my personal favorite, and I knew it when it like after it went the second the movie ended, I knew my favorite scene, which never happens really in most movies for me. It was Andrew saving MJ. And like, I want to preface this. The only thing I pretty much knew about the Amazing Spider-Man movies was Gwen Stacy's death. That was it. So when I saw it, I was like, that's a really heartfelt scene. That's really adorable. It's a really nice character moment for Andrew. And then I watched the Amazing Spider-Man movies for the first time, and then I saw it again.
What do you think of them?
I thought they were all right, but Andrew and Gwen were just electric together. Pun intended. And just seeing where's the thing? Where do I have? Okay. It's a nice scene in the movie, but like for Andrew Garfield and his Peter Parker, it's absolutely monumental for his character. Like it's just so cathartic from a character standpoint because he gets to save his younger brother's girlfriend and not have Tom Holland be befallen to the same fate that he was. And he went through this dark period. He had all this rage and regret and bitterness and sorrow. I do, from Gwen's death. And that just really wasn't the way to go to really process it. Just like take this dark path. And what better way to really help your Spidey younger brother than to both save his girlfriend and be able to simultaneously process your own grief of your girlfriend's death all in that one moment. There's just so much emotional story packed into it. It's just so delicious. Like he gets to redeem himself as his own Spider-Man in many people's eyes. I like him before, but like this was just phenomenal. And he gets to save his younger brother's girlfriend and make sure that he gets to live out his life with MJ. And like, obviously that's probably going to be the case in like 5 to 10 years, maybe longer. And it's just like the reaction he has of saying to MJ, "Are you okay?" knowing full well that she's okay, as opposed to him saying to Gwen, who's just dead on the ground, like, "You're okay." Like, just the parallels and the switcheroo with that, it's just phenomenal. And the best part is, it wasn't in the script. John Watts came up with it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
The
That's
writers.
awesome. Are you okay or with the whole thing?
Oh no, the whole scene, the Andrew saving
wow.
MJ. It was in a Variety article, and John Watt and the writers talked about how they were looking at like previs shots of the final battle, like what they could use. And John Watts was like, "Hey, why don't we do a scene of Andrew saving MJ?" And the writers were like, "Why the fuck didn't we think of this before?"
Wow. That's like that's so key. It's such a key. The fact that he's leaving Spider-Man is bittersweet, but also his Fantastic Four is gonna slap so hard.
We have any ideas of who we would want to direct this next trilogy?
Get John Watts again.
And I dressed for the occasion. You got to get Greta Gerwig.
She has the same shirt.
Oh, super yucky. They're the best. You got to get Greta Gerwig. I want to see the sensitivity.
I think you said that too.
Of like Lady Bird and Little Women on this Peter that has lost it all, bare bones. Like, hell, get Saoirse Ronan in there as
that's gonna guarantee Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, if Saoirse Ronan's there, Timothy's got to be in it.
It's a contractually obligated appearance by Timmy. Yeah, I think that she'd be perfect for it. Especially with how small it's gonna be. I would hope. And she gets the young people pain.
Gwen is an accordion.
What is that?
That is.
If
I might block the Nerd Academy podcast.
That's hate speech.
Accordion. Oh
Oh my god.
Wow.
there's a reason that Jared's
Jared,
name
we
in
know
my
that was you.
phone is Jared
I'm
GS.
tweeting that out right now.
Yeah, that's a screen cap. I only asked that question because I've been on the Rick Famuyiwa being a director.
That's a really good choice.
For this next
I was
trilogy.
gonna say something funny, but that's a really good choice.
Who were you gonna say? Tommy Wiseau?
No, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
So
Lin-Manuel only if Andrew was back in it.
Do what?
well, like
If Andrew was in it, because Tick Tick
Yeah.
Boom is good.
If it was a
that's the
musical.
thing that's like the Lin-Manuel, like yes,
It's a
memeable,
revival of Turn
but
Off
then
the
he
Film,
directed a
whatever
movie.
that's
We
called.
don't talk about
Yeah.
Peter.
You don't
I
talk
have not
about
seen
Peter.
Tick Tick Boom yet either, so
I need
that-
to too.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really good. Lin-Manuel Miranda directed or was involved in all my favorite musicals this year. It was kind of weird. Encanto, Into the Heights, which I recently watched and was great.
Mhm.
96
Have y'all seen
great
Hamilton or
song.
heard of Hamilton?
I
It's
saw it
a
live.
Have you
small
heard of
thing.
him?
Have you heard of Hamilton? It's a cool like fusiony
It's
like
called indie underground
musical-
play.
Yeah, it's like
Maybe one
the,
day they'll
the
record it.
founding fathers were like hip hop, you know?
Yeah,
I
they
saw it
uploaded
in
to
New
Disney
York
Plus
like
today.
the summer before the whole pandemic started or something.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pandemic.
Also, don't
Yep.
sleep
Uh,
on.
So-
Oh my god, Trey.
I always make that joke. I really please don't believe it.
No, I
don't
won't.
sleep
You
on
didn't like
Vivo
any-
too.
Viva.
What?
Is that Lin-Manuel also did the music for Vivo, that Netflix movie with the monkey? Movie's
No, I haven't
okay.
seen
Songs
That
fire.
I thought you were talking about like YouTube Vivo, like the,
Yeah, I
the
thought it was like the
music.
music
I was like,
videos. It's like Lin-Manuel did
Yeah.
Vivo every single music video.
he's done them all.
He's
He
everywhere.
owns Vivo.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh no.
Oh my god, Jared is saying it was Cookie Cop that said it, not him.
Oh sure.
I don't
Jesse,
know, enter this
you
chat.
just lost me. Like you can't say that shit. What are you talking about?
Whoa. Of
You
all
can't-
time?
You can't.
No, you can't be worse than the last Airbender. You can't.
That's true. Well, like
It's an interesting laugh.
anyway,
Jesse,
Jesse, stick to basketball.
shut up and dribble, Jesse.
Shut up.
Um,
Never has
the
that been
last
more
thing-
perfect.
Yeah.
The last thing I kind of want to talk about is where this movie ranks for us, both as a Spider-Man movie and in the MCU. Do you have your list pulled up?
Well, I know off the top of my head that it's number 2 out of Spider-Man movies to me.
Just kidding.
Because
it's mine.
Spider-Verse,
Mine
like,
too.
usually can make me cry on any given day. Versus this one, I did not cry the third time I watched it, which means the emotion did not carry over. What?
He called him Bill Shapiro.
As
Yeah.
for MCU, I think I put it at number 3 behind Infinity War and Winter Soldier. So that's
Nice.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yo, do I have Jess on Letterboxd? About to follow.
I work hard on it, actually.
Yeah. She's really good and funny at Letterboxd.
Nice.
Anyone else have any ratings for this movie?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Nice.
I just always laugh because like my Spider-Man ranking is pretty chill. Like I have Spider-Verse 1, then No Way Home 2.
Mhm.
But again, that's razor thin. Like
So you're the third person who has that same ranking because I do too.
yeah, and also like I've tweeted about this before a long time ago. But like my nephews, we're Puerto Rican. My nephews are half black, half Puerto Rican. They are Miles, and so like I
Yeah.
saw that with them, and so like that was like
That's
that puts
pretty
it
cool.
over into the next thing. That
Yeah.
said, my MCU ranking is unhinged chaos. Like my MCU
We need
ranking,
every of the 27 films ranked here now.
I could rattle it off if you want.
Do
Like
it.
as fast as
Do
I
it.
can.
For
Start
the
from the bo-
people.
start from the bottom and then go from there.
From the bottom. From the bottom.
Start
to
from the
top?
bottom, yeah.
Okay. From 27. Incredible Hulk, Captain America 1, The First Avenger, Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers, Winter Soldier, Thor, Far From Home, Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Shang-Chi. Now we're in the top 10. Infinity War, Black Widow, Guardians, Eternals, Black Panther, No Way Home, Endgame, Iron Man 3, Civil War, Guardians 2.
Guardians 2 is great.
You have
that is
Iron
a
Man
good take.
3 as your
You have
second.
Homecoming?
My
Mine, like,
third.
Iron Man 3 is great
shuffle
too.
it all.
Yeah.
I'm
Shuffle
glad
it
somebody
all.
else loves that movie because
Shuffle.
like I like the first time I saw Iron Man 3, like I loved it, and I've never
Christmas
understood why
Iron Man
people
3
hate it.
Iron Man 3 is a brilliant satire of America, but that is a different podcast. We will talk about that. Jess, if you're ever doing your next match, I'll train you specifically in Iron Man 3.
Just
Only.
If there's Iron Man 3
Just gonna
specific
beat Dan
Schmodown,
Murrow
just
in
be
the
ready.
rematch.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah, rematch.
I believe it.
So where was No Way Home?
5 out of
5.
5.
Okay.
Okay.
For me, it was Black Widow above Infinity War, which I was like, okay.
Black Widow's a
Jess
good
is coming
movie,
for the
man.
heat.
No,
Black
I'm
Widow's
not
a
like
good movie.
criticizing.
Like,
It's just
Alden just goes
surprising.
for it, and I love it.
honestly,
Yeah.
I really like Shang-Chi this year, but like I was really surprised at how much I liked Black Widow. Like, cause I had zero expectations for that movie.
Like
and,
my dad's name is Bill. Too. Loved Black Widow.
It was so
Great
good.
flick.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I still
My
need to
dad
see
goes,
it.
man,
And
great
Shang-Chi.
action, great
And
flick.
Eternals.
Black Widow, great flick.
Where's
Ser-
Trey's dad's letterboxed?
Action, great
I-
flick.
Midway, number one.
I might
Black
text him
Widow.
after this and tell him about Letterboxd.
Oh, he'd probably love it.
Great action,
Um,
great flick.
Great,
I feel like you could say that about every
My dad's-
movie, though.
great flick.
My
Great
dad's
flick.
favorite franchise, Fast and Furious. Great action, great flick. Another bald man leading the movie. He's a big fan of it. My dad, once upon a time, asked, "Hey, are you Vin Diesel?" So makes sense. We're kind of talking about our MCU rankings real quick. I think I have Infinity War and No Way Home kind of tied right now. But besides that, I guess I'll just rattle off.
You
What?
have it as number one on your thing.
I
though.
do. I have No Way Home as number 1 right now, but I have No Way Home, Infinity War, Guardians 2, Winter Soldier, Endgame, Loki, because I'm rating the shows too, which I should have said earlier. Black Panther, Thor, Ragnarok, Homecoming, and Iron Man. But as Spider-Man rankings go, I will say I think Spider-Verse is a better movie. I just think that is like one of the most perfect movies I think ever made. So yeah, what about you, Connor?
Spider-Man films. I honestly probably go No Way Home first over Spider-Verse because I think I have the connection somewhat with at least before I saw it with Toby and Andrew. Like I had some inclination of them. So there's that and just the villains in it and everything.
He dropped his mic.
Yep.
He
So, yeah,
dropped the mic.
Yeah. Number 1 for Spider-Man movies, and I'm pretty much the same with you, Trey. Like, it's razor thin because Infinity War is also my favorite film. Coincidentally, Infinity War is also the MCU film I've seen most in theaters with 4, and Spider-Man No Way Home with 3. I think every other MCU film I've seen like once in theaters. So, like, yeah, it's really close because, like, I don't know. I didn't know if anything could top the Thor arriving in Wakanda, and like No Way Home's gotten close. Like No Way Home's gotten
True.
really close with that. Like,
Yeah.
really close.
It's awesome.
God, man, this is hard. It's
Yeah. What about you, Bill? What do you got?
like honestly,
Step the
like
F up, Bill.
listen, I'm putting the mic right in my hand like this, which means I'm serious.
Central Hours with Bill.
It's central exactly. It's so hard to put this in my MCU one because I think when it recently, like I think Shang-Chi is a top 5 Marvel movie for me right now. So I'd probably do fine. I'll do top 6. God, it's so hard. My favorite MCU movie is still Black Panther. My second is probably Endgame. My third is probably Shang-Chi. And then I guess fourth would be No Way Home at this point. This is subject to change. Like I feel like the more that I watch this movie, it could take a different spot. It could
Better
come
stay
to
top 5 though, or else Trey's gonna beat your
I-
ass. All right,
That's fine. Listen, he knows where I know where he lives,
He
and I
sent
think
me
he knows
mail.
where
I have his
live.
return address.
He does. I sent him a present.
Fool.
That was my first mistake. Was sending him a gift. But
Vin
Spider-Man
Diesel
movies?
family.
It's just a UK family shirt. But for Spider-Man movies, I think Okay, yeah, I think No Way Home's my favorite. Number 2 is it's No Way Home, then it's Spider-Verse, then it's probably Homecoming because I really like that movie a lot.
I like Homecoming a lot.
Homecoming's great.
Jared, hold up a minute. Keep that right there. Keep it up.
And if I don't?
I'm telling you right now, when I tell you that like when I was like 4 or 5, the only like SNL thing that I loved was the Ladies Man on SNL. Oh my God, thank you for saying that. Can I buy you a 5th M with some Cavatier? Anyway, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, Spider-Man No Way Home's a great movie. You know, it is. That's cool. That's cool. Anyway, I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that, Jared. I appreciate that.
Podcast is off the rails. Well, with that, I think before Bill starts doing more SNL monologues, that would be amazing. We need a full show of Bill as God. Who is Bill Hader's character when he does this? Stefan. I want Bill. I want a full podcast where Bill is doing Stefan impressions. So this place has got everything. Bill, Connor, Alden, everything. I guess let's just wrap it up. Connor, where can the people find you on the internet?
Twitter at Depabanana, Nerd Academy podcast, where I talk about Star Wars and other stuff, and sweditor.ig.com, where I write articles very slowly, and I also write stories very slowly. Our whole thing is we're making a fan fiction universe with Star Wars. We're doing our own original stories and everything, but we're keeping to what Lucasfilm has created within the canon and not just doing what we could do just because we technically could. So that's making for some really fun stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Alden, how about you?
You could find me having a great time over at that Alden Diaz on Twitter, where that's my new Twitter after I was unceremoniously locked out of the last one. And yeah, so I'm on Octa Radio Star Wars podcast, which is 3 shows on the podcast feed. It's Octa Radio proper. I interview people from around the Star Wars space, people that work for Lucasfilm, Star Wars authors, whatever. And then it's also the Mandalorian Creed, hosted by the amazing Tori Fox, and that's where we're doing our Boba Fett coverage this season. There's also a Rewatch Between Worlds, where Nikki and I go back and analyze all of Star Wars Rebels in order with analyses, commentaries, deep dives, all that stuff. I'm also on the One and Done Film Club, where me, Nikki Kumar, and Reed Devaney take movie franchises and we discuss them. We decide which one movie from that whole franchise should stand for the entire thing, and then we do a commentary on that movie. So the episodes are like 3 hours long. They're a lot of fun, a lot of work, but they're great.
Have you done Harry Potter or Twilight?
We did Harry Potter. We did not do Twilight.
You should do Twilight.
But Twilight's on the schedule, and we'll call you because we're going to need someone to shepherd us through. Not because we hate it, but because we don't know anything. I know. I have a very casual knowledge. Harry Potter ended up being Goblet of Fire. That was in our first season.
Nice.
And the thing about it is that the premise of the show is not which one is the best. The premise of the show is which one is like the ultimate sort of like taste test. Like what should be the one for that group. So it's the discussions are complicated. But yeah, and then writing on Twitter. No one pays me to do it, but it's good. So
yeah, some pretty good stuff.
Thank you.
Preston makes a point here. Jess,
this guy coming in right at the end.
Does Preston think that everything he posts to is Twitter? Like this is not Twitter.
It's like when he says ratio in real life. I'm like, I don't understand.
Jess will say something to me, and I'll just tell her ratio, and she's like, "We're not on Twitter. You can't just tell me the ratio." And I'm like, ratio. So, anyways,
L plus ratio.
Oh my God,
there was a whole crew of girls when I went to high school that would go retweet.
Yes, same.
It's worse than ratio.
I say that.
Fortunately, I wasn't. My last year of high school was 2012, so they didn't say they didn't say retweet. Jesse, shut up. Jesus Christ. What are you doing? Get out of here. Ugh. Anyway. First of all,
Jess, where can they find you?
You can find me struggling in grad school right now. But
Hey.
otherwise,
hell yeah, brother.
I have a few Schmoedown matches that have aired long ago, but I exist on the internet there. Yeah, I think my Twitter's in the, what do you call it? The description.
Yeah, everyone's Twitter is in the description of the show, so just click the link there.
You can follow me on Letterboxd. I feel comfortable with that, and I work hard on that.
She has some good.
It's linked in my
reviews. They're very witty, very
Twitter.
well thought, very good. Jared makes a really great point here. Rookie of the Year, Schmoedown.
Yeah.
It was my first interaction with her. I saw her Instagram story that she was like in the Schmoedown, and I was like, I know this thing. If she knows this thing, we have to date. That was like my conclusion.
Not to like add even more minutes to this, but just real quick, I
Please do.
I found out about you, Jess, through Schmoedown, just like as a viewer, and then I found out about Trey just through Twitter and having mutuals and stuff like Nikki and things like that, and did not put two and two together at all until I think that maybe it was a Schmoedown that you attended, Trey. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, the New York.
Yeah, there was like something like that, and I was like, oh, something. And then I think Nikki had said like, I think Trey's girlfriend does that. And I was like, oh my god! Like, all day, like, clicked in my head. I was like, Trey's girlfriend and Jess Schloth are the same person. It was amazing.
I feel the same way. Yeah. That was a pretty cool event. The New York one, that was cool. But
It's a good time. Yeah, it's always a good time.
For sure. You guys can find me on Twitter at @thetrainator. Bill, how about you?
You guys can find me on
Notes right
Twitter at Star Wars Bill. I just personally, I want to thank both Connor and Alden for coming on. Connor, you're
Jess too.
And excuse me. I'm sorry, Jess.
You bastard.
I want to thank
now.
I want to thank Jess, Connor, and Alden for all coming on today. This was a wonderful conversation, and I've admired all of you guys for a while. And Connor, we've done stuff together. Alden, I've been a big fan of your Twitter stuff. Jess, I've met you before, and I think that you are wonderful. And I appreciate everybody coming on here. It's been wonderful. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate all of you so much
for having me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And it's an
You're
honor.
showing us hand today.
Here's
Jesse
the
and
thing.
Bill are gonna fight after this episode.
Here's the thing that's wrong with Jesse.
I would.
Here's
be
the thing
okay.
that's wrong with Jesse's Bender. Sorry.
Now,
I should stop. Now, if
the water level rises, wouldn't we sell their houses?
My favorite one.
Aquaman.
The audience for Star Wars is like men. Okay.
Yep. Here's what they should do with Star Wars. They should just bring them all back. Bring every Han, Luke, Leia, recast. Do all of it. What an idiot! I'm
this
sorry.
is getting weird.
This is what an idiot.
This is
Not
getting
Alden,
uncomfortable.
Ben Shapiro. Anyway, keep.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to this extra long episode of Skywalking through the league. You guys can follow us on Twitter at SkywalkingTL and stay quippy.
Spew.